Thanks for joining us tonight on ARC Salt Lake. I'm Brian Schneed. It's Thursday, February 6th. Tonight we're taking another in-depth look at the Millcreek incident involving ICE agents and Unified Police. However, different questioning here and new questions now as to whether Unified Police should have dropped the traffic citation against the driver at the center of this incident. That's because of the lane he chose to drive in, the honking his horn at federal agents. And I talked with Millcreek Mayor Jeff Silvestrini today to get his take on this part of the situation. Did UPD get this right in dropping the citation?
I believe that they did, on the basis of conflicting statements from ICE agents to them, which their body cam video, they report about that. And then the surveillance video doesn't give any indication that there was any swerving toward these officers. So, and then there was some question, I think, that they raised about whether there was traffic in the what would be the inbound lane, whether he could have gotten over or not. Maybe there was opportunity for that, but anyway, they made the call to dismiss the citation, not me.
So much of this was based on emotion or personal feeling towards certain individuals or a bigger picture event. How much of that played into this, do you feel like? All of this really stemmed from, I guess, a situation where someone didn't like someone didn't like the actions that were taken, and then ultimately blew up into this big thing that involved you spending a whole lot of time on it for something that really was rather minimal in the grand scheme of things of what you probably want to be spending your time on.
Well, for sure, this is not the kind of thing that I like to spend my time on, and it hasn't been productive except for except to the extent that what I've done is to reinforce the idea that we're going to respect civil rights of people that either live or work in Millcreek. Okay, but yeah, it's not emotions. I think it is something that is purely driven by emotion. That's kind of the problem with it, you know. And I don't approve of Mr. Colin, you know, yelling what he yelled, as I understand it, to, you know, police officers. I believe that police officers are worthy of respect, but that is a free speech issue, and where I think this went south really is that trained officers who are, you know, not only are they trained to not react to that kind of behavior, but and unfortunately they experience it too frequently, according to what I've heard from my officers, you know. So they you know, professionals let that roll off your back, and frankly, in order, you know, being a police officer is a hard job, but there's also a professional responsibility that goes with it. And we have to expect that officers will follow their training and act as professionals. And the other thing that happened in this, if it was just purely an emotionally caused incident, that certainly does not warrant pulling, you know, weapons on somebody who's driving. All right, that's the other aspect of this that I was concerned about, because I think there's a huge overreaction and a power dynamic here where officers should not be drawing weapons on because they're mad. That is the worst time for an officer to draw a weapon, totally against what their training would say.
With their involvement in your community and other communities here in Utah, how much does ICE owe it to people to be transparent to some degree about responding to allegations like this, or just being more transparent in general with some of the inner workings or some of the workings that people are seeing in their communities?
So, you know, part of what I'm concerned about here is communication between ICE and our law enforcement. It typically, when a federal agency operates in a city like Millcreek, they give a heads up to our department, and there are a lot of reasons why that makes sense. You know, so there's, you know, it removes confusion, that it may enable our guys to respond more quickly if the federal agency does require assistance. I mean, our officers are going to assist them if they need help, right? So that's kind of what I would hope to come out of this ultimately is better communication between federal agencies and our police department. I do hope this sends a message to federal agencies that it's important to me and to our police and our city that the civil rights of American citizens.
So next I wanted a law enforcement perspective on this incident. So I reached out to Matt Evans, a former Salt Lake City police officer who's conducted a number of traffic stops in his career, to get his take. And here is what he shared with me today.
You got an individual who was upset about the situation, right? And not acting the way like everyone else would act. But the question is, were they doing anything that really, prohibited your law enforcement action, right? Like, were they doing anything that was threatening or that was disrupting their investigation or the interaction they're having with, someone, especially someone who's not, related, right? Like, that's always the thing you have to weigh.
Was there actually a traffic violation there that they could have cited him for?
Um, so just like honking your horn, like making unreasonable sounds, like that was a violation. I don't know, I cannot remember off the hand if that was a primary offense, but it was a thing. And that can be the key, right? Also, depending on the street and whatever, do you have to give way? Especially, I mean, if there is clearance and you have the ability, yes, Utah law, you have to get over that next lane and give that birth. But again, is it necessary, right? Does it fulfill some sort of public need or necessity or safety requirement to stop that individual, to give them a ticket just because they honked and drove by, because it is a hot topic, or just to let it go and move on? We always try to evaluate traffic stops like, is this you being punitive, right? Is this you trying to exert your influence just because you don't like their behavior? Like, what's the ultimate value of the stop?
How about Utah's move over law for emergency responders on the side of the road? This was 2 lanes of travel, and there was no one next to him from the surveillance video. Does that apply here?
You're supposed to move over, right? If you have the ability and timing to move over, you're supposed to move over. It's a safety thing. A lot of people don't follow it. It's amazing how many people get away with either more than likely just not realizing it and just, don't do it. But it is extremely dangerous. It's something we taught and trained all our officers to be careful, because officers still get hit all the time, with that car in that travel lane right next to their stop.
Listen, obviously you touched on a hot button issue. A lot of people are talking about the overall significance of immigration and customs enforcement in communities. And there's people that don't like it. And I think that's very obvious. This individual even admits, I don't like ICE. That alone is not enough to do anything, which the UPD officer recognized that is not a crime. But over the overall situation of dropping the citation and then seeing the video surveillance come out, pulls out of the parking lot, goes into that far lane where those officers are, maybe doesn't necessarily swerve because the video doesn't give us a clear picture, honks, which at one point may or may not have been some sort of traffic-related citable offense. When you look at all of that, did UPD get it right in dropping this with the evidence they had?
Yes, I think it sets a bad precedence for that to be allowed, right? Like, we don't want to, we as law enforcement, even though I'm retired, we don't want to convey that older image of like, hey, this guy's annoying me, I'm going to give him a ticket, I'm going to throw him up against the wall, whatever it is, right? We want to stop doing that. And again, I'm sure there's emotions even within law enforcement, for and against on this topic, right? It's universal. And, even we have feelings. We just don't want to send that messaging anymore. I know that's what everybody I spoke with that work with, but there's always going to be people that are going to do that. And that's just the unfortunate part of that job. But yeah, I think they got it right.
If this was a local officer, could this have ended differently? Do you think they even would have bothered to pull the individual over? Or is it because of the emotions being just heightened right now and how, in a way, politicized this is?
No, I mean, it could have happened. It could have happened either way for any department and any agency at any time, right? It's just, I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times people have honked and flipped me off or swore at me when I was, on a traffic stop. I'd have even people come up like, what'd you pull them over for? Like, trying to question me, and they'd get a little too close. I'm like, look, go mind your business, like, and sometimes you'd have a negative reaction or, hopefully a positive reaction or whatever. Like, it happens all the time, but is it worth it wasting your time to do this, to teach this person a lesson. That's just, it doesn't further anything, right? They're just going to still be mad. Doesn't fix anything. They haven't learned a lesson, but maybe you feel better because, you know, they honked at you or whatever. Like, it just, you got to look for a bigger picture, but it's tough because emotions can run high.
So I reached out to Unified Police today for an interview, and on Tuesday, UPD shared a lengthy statement. They had mentioned they had not seen the incident in their own person, being there on scene when it took place, and ICE agents would need to provide statements and testify in court. Now, 2 out of the 3 agents declined to do that. The agents suggested issuing a citation for failure to yield to an emergency vehicle, which is what I was hoping to ask UPD about, since the surveillance video shows the driver in the closest lane to the agents with a potential opportunity there to move over into the other lane, something that is mentioned in Utah's move over law and something that we talk about each year here on KUTV 2 News. UPD actually reviewed the footage, and that footage didn't show the driver necessarily swerving at any point towards the agents, so they dismissed their citation. This doesn't reference the video showing that the driver seemingly chose to drive close to the agents in that lane, potentially violating Utah code. Again, something we wanted to speak to the chief of Unified Police about. To read more about this, we have an article right now at KUTV.com. Coming up on Arc Salt Lake, our efforts to try and get answers from ICE about this very incident.
ICE has not been responding to our request for some answers. Do they need to be responsive to your request for answers?
I think Mayor Silvestrini is entitled to have some answers from him for his purposes and for his community.
While continuing our coverage tonight on the incident involving ICE agents, we went in depth on that in the first portion of the show. So far, ICE has not responded, not just to our request for information, but to the Millcreek Mayor's as well. He told me that when I spoke to him today. Our Brian Will went to the ICE field office in West Valley City to see if he could get some answers or anyone to talk.
The presence of ICE agents raises a lot of questions, so I headed to the source to talk to ICE directly. I started by sending an email to ICE's national media line, where at 7 this morning, I got a response saying they've received my request. Then I reached out to the local field office in West Valley City, where an automated response told me they are committed to a transparent process and resolving concerns as promptly as possible. After that, I reached out to Utah Senators Mike Lee and John Curtis and Governor Spencer Cox. I wanted to get their take on ICE operations and if they are concerned about transparency. I sent the following 3 questions. Will ICE be transparent in telling the public what is going on in local communities, specifically letting city leaders and law enforcement know about any operations in their area? And what steps is the government and ICE taking to balance enforcement of federal immigration laws with protecting the rights and safety of residents? After not hearing back, I started making calls. And more calls. Okay, that was their Salt Lake line. Rings once and just stays open. After numerous attempts, I drove to their Salt Lake City field office, hoping to get some answers. I'm looking to speak to someone from ICE. Is anybody there for ICE? The guard told me he doesn't work for ICE, but ICE is in the building. I was told I would have to go through a phone number to get a hold of them. That phone was never picked up.
2 News has done multiple stories, as you may imagine, on this incident with various reactions. You see some of it on your screen right now. Catch up on all of our prior coverage on our website, KUTV.com. Happy National Weather Person's Day. I think we're supposed to congratulate Sean for his role in our newsroom. I see it all over social media, and I feel bad we haven't snapped a selfie or something. Be like, look, I know this guy.
There's still time, especially you're doing the tent tonight.
Yeah, I'll be up late with you. Lucky you.
Let's talk about something, probably the key difference moving from Austin to here. It's a lot windier here at times.
Yeah, do you need to like put ankle weights on or something to make sure you don't get blown away?
I took my dog out yesterday. The door almost flew off. I mean, it was getting pretty crazy.
Would have loved to see that. But...
yeah, 30 to 50 mile per hour winds.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty substantial here. And we're going to do it all over again tomorrow. So right now the winds aren't too bad, but they're going to be ramping up overnight. And it's actually these winds that will be responsible for warming the temperatures up through the overnight. So what you see right now is not what you'll get at midnight tonight. Those temperatures are slowly going to start to warm up here through the overnight hours as the winds will kick in. And look at this. Tomorrow afternoon and evening, it's still gusty, but the winds will shift in out of north and west behind a cold front, and that will cool us back down, and eventually the winds will ease quite a bit. So right now, we've actually already warmed up. We were at 39. We're back up to 40 degrees here in Salt Lake City, and so it begins our warming trend. You'll see this green kind of spread northward here with some of those strong winds as they ramp up. We're at 49 Cedar City, 63 in St. George. There's our storm back out towards the west. Look at all this moisture falling over portion days ahead. Seeing some light snowfall up towards the north and east into the Cache Valley area, just north of Logan. And generally, this is going to kind of wane here through the next few hours. It's kind of the bonus round of the storm out ahead of it, more than 12 hours really. But as we get into the day tomorrow, that's when things really start to kick in. By early tomorrow morning, we start to see some scattered snow showers out there, especially up towards the north. I think we're mainly dry here across the valley floors. 10, 11, noon tomorrow is when things start to ramp up. Here's a cold front. The temperatures will fall behind it. Precipitation intensity will really ramp up. That's when I think we see the heaviest snow up into the mountains between about noon and 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Behind the cold front, we may see some snow mixing in here across the valley floors. I think at this point, after 5 o'clock, when it's cold enough to snow, we're kind of at the tail end of the moisture and the precipitation. So unfortunately, not expecting anything in the way of accumulating snow across the valley floors. But as it pushes out of here, we'll be left with maybe a few tenths of an inch of rain, and then maybe up into the mountains about 5 to 10 inches of snow. We don't have advisories for the mountains, but this is what we're generally looking at here. May have to even lower those cottonwood totals that we're expecting. So the lows overnight, again, warm up. For St. George, we've got temperatures here that are still plenty warm. We're into the 60s and 50s as we get into the day tomorrow for us along the Wasatch Front. Mix of rain and snow. Colder for the weekend here, Brian. I think Saturday morning, if you're going to be venturing out to the slopes, get out there early, but it'll be a powder day. In fact, maybe a bluebird powder day.
Okay, my challenge for you, maybe throughout the winter months here, can you ramp up the old Cottonwood Canyon 7-day again, like Trent used to do?
Yeah.
Let's get it going. It's got to be in a template in that.
But right
machine
now,
somewhere.
it's
fired up.
It hasn't been active enough, Brian.
I know.
It's
Well, we'll
been
see.
lacking.
Maybe next week. Maybe
next week. Maybe
All
next
right.
week.
Thank you, Sean. We will be right back. All right, I don't know if anyone will be around during this, but it could maybe happen. An asteroid has a 1 in 2,700 chance of hitting Earth in 2182.
So
what year is it
there's a
again?
chance.
So you're saying there's a chance. That is just 157 years from now, unless we have a lot of medical advances. I don't know if anyone here that would be seeing this will be around, but astronomers say from NASA say the asteroid called Bennu is medium-sized and is relatively close.
Okay, as long as it's not large size, right? Well, researchers say if it does hit Earth, it could cause a lot of winter. They also say asteroids this big crash into Earth every 100,000 to 200,000 years, so, okay.
Is this a medium asteroid the size of a large asteroid that we need to be concerned about? Or like, what are we classifying here?
I feel like, 157 years, we'll have the technology to just get it out of the
Yes,
sky.
so my grandchildren will be
They're
all
gonna have
right.
to worry about it.
We're back tomorrow.